Sri Jatin Christopher to kindly take the seat. Sir. Jatin sir doesn't need any formal introduction, as we are all had a number of opportunities to hear him in Calcutta. But as a matter of protocol, let me give a brief introduction, very brief introduction of Jatin sir. CA Jatin Christopher is a chartered accountant, cost accountant and law graduate. He qualified as a chartered accountant in 1996 and has been in practice since 2000, specializing in indirect tax advisory and litigation matters in central and state legislation. He is a resource person for ICAI and the government in customs, foreign trade policy and GST. His views and contributions are well published in several respected fora. He is a partner in JCESS, a full service firm presence across the country. So may I request Jatin sir to kindly start his deliberations. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. This is definitely a pleasure. It's a privilege, I would say, to address members on this august platform. And I know all members are very well aware of the provisions. So it's a big responsibility. I was just told that there are some members who have taken special pains to be here to find out what new mistakes I have been making in Bangalore so that I can share those mistakes with you, that you will not make those same mistakes. You should make new ones and not the same ones that I've been making. And I'm here completely selfish to learn from you something new about GST and take it back when I go. When we speak about GST compliances, we were still figuring out how to get the returns going, and I'm told that now the returns will get auto-populated. So what remains as far as GST compliances are concerned? Compliance in GST, the future has, I would see, untapped potential for members of this esteemed profession to contribute in a very significant way. I'll defend this statement by offering some pointers for members to kindly consider. I heard a reference to the relationship between bees and flowers. I've come across instances that whole bouquets have been carried by the bees away from the garden. And I've heard about bees who have made friends with the gardener and all his flowers. Friends, when we come to GST compliances, we will need to visualize compliance with GST has nothing to do with GSTR 1 and 3B. All right, GSTR 1 and 3B is reporting of compliance. Compliance is taking a position. So we will need to make a decision, what is our stand with respect to the most powerful position the law has put taxpayers in section 59. Every registered person shall self-assess his liability and discharge that through the return. So therefore, why is the taxpayer explaining his interpretation of the law? You understand, when we file any reply, it could be to a notice under 61, an inquiry under 65, an inquiry under 67. Taxpayer somehow believes he needs to offer an explanation. Reply is not an explanation. Reply is a disclosure of position. This is my stand. It is not taxable. If you're not satisfied with, I will allow you to first make your case. I don't need to offer an explanation to justify my self-assessment, but somehow as chartered accountants, we are overburdened with this misplaced sense of responsibility to offer an explanation defending our position. That is not what is required of the law. We are required to only state our position and wait for revenue to make its case in respect of any position we may be taking in self-assessment. When we look at GST compliances, I'll share a few areas where there is still questions that remain to be addressed and then answers found. 1 and 3B has nothing to do with compliance. Let's not even treat 1 and 3B as if that is compliance, and I'm very happy that 1 and 3B is reaching its logical end, that the system will take care of it, and members here don't have to stay up long hours just to get the returns going, because anyway what's gone in is wrong. And we were allowed to make some rectification in the following tax periods, but then now we don't know where those mistakes are. And yet another chance is allowed when 9 and 9C have to be filed. Now we have rectified everything, hopefully, and filed 9 and 9C, yet we are answering questions why R1 is not matching 3B. If R1 is not matching 3B, I have filed 9. Where is the question of discussing why R1 is not matching 3B? 2A is not matching 3B. Whose 2A is matching 3B? Whose 2A is matching 3B? Those people in Noida. That Principal Commissioner sir mentioned, 2A is matching 3B for those people in Noida. If your 2A is not matching 3B, then you're not in Noida. You're in Calcutta doing bona fide business. So therefore, you don't have to be defensive that something is not matching. There's something called presumption, something else called assumption. There may be a presumption that may be raised if something is not matching with something, but that is not the same as making an assumption that you have defected on 16(2)(c). So therefore, let's hold our horses. Why are we so excited to get? I suppose this is the sentiment of a 2020 generation. 7 o'clock toss, 11 o'clock result. We'll have to wait. This is a 5-day match. First, they will bat, then we will get a chance to bat. This time. So therefore, my sense is we will need to keep 5th day pitch conditions in mind and then decide when you win the toss whether you will bat or you will allow the other side to bat. We'll take a few instances where issues have not even been raised. We're so bothered with ASMT 10s. This is not matching with that, that is not matching with this, that we haven't even begun to pay attention to the issues that really matter. Let me share a few examples. There are too many examples, but this conclave is one basically like was very appropriately brought out by the Lordship, who was who are chief guest, that this needs to provoke debate. We will need to find out issues, develop answers, and possibly support the government in resolving these without necessarily having to let all matters get precipitated through notice and litigation. A company has 5,000 crores revenue. It has about 2,000 employees, high value services they're providing. It is a people-centric business. 5,000 crores revenue, not a very unusual or a top 5 company in the country. It's a very regular size of business, 5,000 crores in revenue. How much should their 17.5 disallowance be? 17.5, we are so bothered about block credits. Rule 17.2, we're looking at Rule 42, 43 compliance, bothered about compliances, computation of ETO by TTO. Let's wait. Let's not do clerical task. That's not what we are trained to do. We are supposed to sit back and examine a business which has 2,000 people, revenue of 5,000 crores, how much should its ideal 17.5 disallowance be? Let's say my estimate is it should be about 100 crores. And if you look at the returns, we find that there is 7 crores disallowance. Voluntarily, taxpayer has reversed 7 crores. Audits that are being conducted are so rudimentary that we are bothered about the computation of the reversal. Is this common? Is this not common? And then debating it should be 7 crores or 7 crore 50 lakhs. And are you liable to pay interest on that at 24 or 18%? What was the date when you made the reversal? Did you true up your reversal at the end of the year? Did you reverse it with interest? Was that payment made through DRC 3 or was it paid through 3B? These are not the things we should be wasting our time. I don't know why we are wasting our time, but we will leave those who want to occupy themselves with those issues and feel fulfilled. But we are trained to address issues, 5,000 crores in revenue, 2,000 people. Why is Rule 42 reversal only 7 crores? When I think it should be 100 crores. 93 crores of reversal, how has it been avoided? Inward supplies under 9963 can easily be passed through intermediaries so that the HSN code now becomes 9985 and therefore is not hit by 17.5. Those who got it, got it. Those who didn't get it, will get it. So therefore, please visualize, step back and look at the books and see what's missing in this picture. Why are reversals only so much? Take another example. What is a business? Because inward supplies which are used or intended to be used are permitted to claim input tax credit in anticipation that it will eventually be actually used in making taxable outward supplies. So what is a business? A business is not a company. A company can be incorporated and for a good number of years there may not be any business at all to write home about. So business, back in 1952 itself was addressed in Western India vegetable products. Business refers to income generating capacity. When does this company demonstrate income generating capacity? Only then is it considered to be a business. What about sunk costs? You know, 35D and all those issues. What about sunk costs? There's a discussion about whether these sunk costs, preliminary expenses should be carried as and amortized in the balance sheet or should it be capitalized with the asset. How much of this cost can be capitalized? What is direct? What is indirect? Which one is a period cost? Which one is revenue that is going to be amortized? Concept of deferred revenue is done away with, but the principle has not gone. You either capitalize it or treat it as period cost. Friends, why are we claiming so much input tax credit? A business that is not yet a business, how can it have so much of input tax credit? We need to step back and look at the business as to how much tax should this business at all be paying. So therefore, in 16.1 itself, we have a hurdle. No one's even addressing those issues because we are only satisfied if 2A matches 3B. And if it doesn't match 3B, then Circular 183 says you can get someone to give someone else a certificate about something else that they have no control over, and everyone else will shut up if you produce a certificate. I'm very concerned that there are chartered accountants signing off on certificates like this. I don't think we should be giving certificates at all. It is too onerous for us to say that the taxes that are missing are included in the returns that are filed. So therefore, let's concern ourselves with issues that really need examination. A sweet stall, I'm sure in a lot of beautiful sweets that we get here. Is it goods or services? A box of sweets, is it goods or services? The answer is not obvious. But if the answer appears to be obvious, then we are missing out the point completely because of para 6B in Schedule 2, it says it's a service. Goods supplied in the context of consumption is a service. Pepsi sold to Indian Railways is goods, 40% tax. Pepsi sold by Indian Railways to passengers in Rajdhani is service, 5% tax. I don't need to explain further, you know why. A box of sweets does not have MRP. That means it is not meant for redistribution. They can't go to legal metrology and under package commodity rules make a declaration that this is a article that does not carry MRP legitimately, and here in GST we apply chapter 21 or chapter 19 and pay 5% tax. Why do we pay 5% tax? We pay 5% tax treating it as goods because there's credit to be claimed on ghee, sugar, advertisement, overheads, packing material. So therefore, what appears to be goods in the eyes of law is not goods, is services. And if a box of sweets bearing MRP is available in Big Bazaar, that's Haldiram Son Papadi box. That is goods, but not this. And if it is services and it's not goods, then what about stock transfer between distinct persons of sweet box, which will be distributed by the distinct person who receives? So deemed supply will be goods, but not eventual supply to customers. So nobody understands these issues because we are too busy looking at whether R1 is matching 3B. 2A is matching 3B, 17.5 reversals, 42-43 computation, etc. So therefore, who can understand, who can grasp the seriousness of the issue? 6 years is sufficient for us to complain about portal is not working. All right, stop complaining. Stop. I think it's time we stop talking about the portal, because our chief guest also said that courts have stepped in and found solutions, and the government very notably has responded to these observations by our courts, opened up the portal, because let's bear in mind, freedom to do self-assessment takes with it the perils of making mistakes with self-assessment. We want minimum government, maximum governance, but we want government to leave us alone and overlook our mistakes. We have to step up and take responsibility if we have got something wrong, and if we have got it wrong, we are responsible to rectify these things, and audit is a great opportunity for us to interact, engage with tax officers to understand what is their perspective. And it is a responsibility of the government not to permit individual taxpayers get away with an unfair interpretation of law and an unjust advantage, because the whole society is looking to every single tax officer whether they will take action against one such mischievous taxpayer, or it will ignore and gloss over these mistakes, saying it is just one person, it's all right, the rest of the taxpayers are complying with their responsibilities. This law is not complex for taxpayers. I would sense that this law is far more complex for tax officers. It's far more complex for tax officers because they have a time limit to issue notice and a time limit by when to complete adjudication. If they issue a show cause notice under a wrong interpretation, they have lost that revenue forever, because the taxpayer, all that the taxpayer has to do is to only expose the defects in that interpretation and not allow yet another chance for revenue to issue the second notice. There was an investigation in Vizag. We got a demand, the demand was raised of about 14 crores. Demand raised was for 14 crores. A short objection was filed calling into question how did DGGI initiate this investigation? How did they initiate this investigation? Because there's something called after discovery. There's something called after discovery. There's a doctor in Bangalore, very elderly gentleman, very good with patients, but he has a very unconventional approach. Any patient who goes to his clinic has to lie down on the examination table. Doctor, pair mein moch hai, late jao, late jao. All right? First, he will start with the mouth. You say, open your mouth. He will look for something in it. Then he will go to the throat. Then he will go to the chest. Then he will go to the abdomen. He will keep on working his way till he finds what he is looking for. Finally, he will get to the ankle in the afternoon. Please bear in mind, investigation cannot be an after discovery. He'll keep pressing till you scream. And if you don't scream, he will keep on pressing. At some point you have to scream. So therefore, the question raised was, what were the reasons to believe that evasion of tax is taking place? Based on this application that was made under 6710, read with 165.5 of CRPC, the show cause notice was revised to 15 lakhs. 14 crores was the demand in the show cause notice. It was revised to 15 lakhs. The taxpayer was very happy to discharge this 15 lakhs. So we sent a request demanding passing of an order. First you pass an order dropping that demand, because we don't know how you have revised your demand itself. It's a big challenge, because we had one recent decision of Guwahati High Court where the court was pleased to direct DGGI to produce its records to court and answer what were the reasons to believe that evasion was taking place. Friends, every non-payment of tax is not evasion. Evasion requires 4 ingredients: non-payment of tax, knowledge of liability, concealment of information to make detection difficult, and gains from this misadventure. If I don't gain by putting my hands into suppression or fraud, then it's only stupidity in interpretation of law. It is not evasion of law. All right? Being stupid is not a crime. Next time we should be a little bit wiser, but then what happens is there are only 2 provisions, 73 and 74, in which to issue notice. Another instance came up where investigation is conducted stating that this is a works contractor. This works contractor has mischievously colluded with his suppliers and split his works contract into supply of goods and provision of services to gain from lower total tax consequence. And there's some 20 pages of reply. Show cause notice is given under section 73, making allegations that there are a variety of malafides. So this taxpayer came and said, can you handle this notice? Of course, you can handle any notice. Do you have money to pay this tax? I don't have money to pay this tax. Do you have money to pay my fees? That much I have. Then please pay that much and we'll see how we will respond. So a short reply was given. So taxpayer came and said, sir, please make a detailed reply. We're at a time where the patient is giving guidance to the surgeon how to go about surgery. Who is responsible for the situation that has become like this? Patient, other patients, or surgeons in general? Surgeons who have entertained this sort of a counseling by the patient. He's fallen down from the tree. He's developed a new elbow since the fall. Patient is asking the doctor, 2 हफ्ता आयोडेक्स लगाने से चला जाएगा. Please bear in mind, I am the consultant. Please don't give me consultancy. Your job is only to admit the patient. Paid the fees, now you wait. Short reply was given because I believe that a very long reply is invariably a wrong reply. If the answer is long, it's most likely wrong. So short reply was given to the department saying that since the department has accepted there is no evasion of tax, since the department has accepted that there is no evasion of tax, self-assessment cannot be rejected. Kindly drop the demand. Officer called for a personal hearing to explain why such a position is being taken. The response was, if there is evasion, notice should have been under 74. When notice is under 73, by doctrine of election, you have applied, it's not like you forgot which section to issue the notice under. You knew exactly. You could have issued this notice under 73, 74, perhaps even 76. You have issued this notice under 73, which means you felt that the other routes available are not suitable in this case. When you have admitted there is no evasion, you could not have made any allegation under 73, so self-assessment has to be agreed. So then the officer said, all right, please sit down, can you explain to me what I need to do? When the officer orders tea, then you know you've got your answer. Very nice officer. We've now become friends since then. So his question was, chalo batao, what should I do? Demand is 27 crores. You want to save the notice or save the demand, sir? If you want to be adamant and you want to save the notice, you will lose the demand. If you're prepared to save the demand, then you have to forego this notice and issue a fresh notice within limitation under 74, and then we will see. But then what reply will you file when you issue 74 notice? I will come back and tell you then. I've collected only fees once. That is for this assignment. Friends, please bear in mind, deep insights into the understanding of a taxpayer's business is very, very essential, and I don't believe anyone who hasn't put in the kind of time studying accounts and business so closely as members in this room will be able to identify that. Simple example, and then we'll complicate it. 3-4 sets of examples, very important issue to identify. I'll conclude with some observations from income tax law. There's an export order for a company in Calcutta. 20% of the material required is produced in Calcutta. 80% is produced in Faridabad. They have a branch there, factory there. 80% of the equipment is manufactured in Faridabad, 20% in Calcutta. And all the components arrive in Calcutta port and are exported by sea route to the customer somewhere in Southeast Asia. Who is the exporter in this case? Taking out of India to a place outside India is the definition of export from customs law, which follows into GST law. Who is the exporter? Because in GST, we have traveled beyond person and we have gone into the concept of distinct person. The distinct person in West Bengal is different from the distinct person in Uttar Pradesh. Who is the exporter? Shipping bill is in the name of the company. So therefore, we can't look at support from shipping bill. We can't look at support from e-way bill. We have to look at legal authority to enter into a contract of this kind. Who has that legal authority? When we look at who has authority, we can apply a test which I would like to call the withdrawal failure test. If I withdraw from this transaction, who will be held in default? Who does the customer have a right to take action against? Customer's action will lie against the company in Calcutta, so the exporter has to be the distinct person in West Bengal. Therefore, the parts supplied from Faridabad to Calcutta are stock transfers liable to IGST and credit to be taken in West Bengal, zero rate and all right. Just because it is revenue neutral does not mean the stock transfer will be free from tax. Revenue neutral came to GST and died. The argument of revenue neutrality was valid until some time ago under the earlier law, but it came to GST and died. There's no such thing called revenue neutral. In Dharmendra M. Jani, Bombay High Court has stated once again that all these concepts that we somehow associate GST with associate with GST no longer exist in GST. There's some publication we released recently where we have identified about 13 different concepts that are commonly referred to in GST but don't exist in GST. Please bear in mind, Tax Practitioners Federation Association decision does not apply. VAT is like, say, service tax is like VAT. GST is nothing like VAT. GST is nothing like service tax. GST is not a destination-based consumption tax because we have umpteen examples in place of supply provisions where the destination is not the place of supply. So why are we fooling ourselves looking at destination principle, revenue neutrality, value addition, seamless flow of credit, cascading avoidance? All these are extra legislative aspects which have no place in the statute. We have to only follow the written law. And the written law makes no such promises. So if we leave these extra legislative concepts and dive into the legislations, we will find there are far more number of things that we are missing that exists on the face of this record. There's a software company in Bangalore that has got a contract from a US client to work on a particular project for about 3 months. They need 100 engineers to work on this project, but this company in Bangalore does not have 100 engineers who are available to work for 3 months. They have about 30 engineers in Bangalore. They have about 70 engineers in Hyderabad. They have a branch office in Hyderabad. So they deploy these 30 engineers from Bangalore and 70 engineers from Hyderabad to work on this common client. They fulfill the project and they have raised invoices and exported. The Hyderabad branch of the legal entity is an SEZ unit. The Bangalore branch of the legal entity is a STP unit, who is the exporter? Who is the exporter? Obviously, you know the rest of the story. I don't need to explain something that's very obvious. So therefore, taxpayers are under great confusion. Taxpayer under great confusion. How will I now go and pay back taxes? If I pay taxes for the past, will I get credit? 17.5I comes into the picture. Any demand under 74, I will lose credit. What about interest liability? I'm an SEZ in Hyderabad. How can I say I have made DTA sales? How can I not fulfill my EO under the SEZ Act? There are various compulsions under various legislations that make us do things that are incongruous with GST law. So we have to step back and validate business models. I would look at a company whose business model has not undergone a change pre-2017, post-2017. If their business model has undergone a change, then I will have something to consider that they may have responded to the GST introduction in July 2017. But if they have remained the same, then I think they have far more skeletons in the cupboard than they are willing to admit. Therefore, these are areas where someone who deeply understands business can step up and examine what needs to be done. The question that comes to professionals' mind is, who's going to pay for all of this value addition that we're bringing in? Please bear in mind, we don't have to wait for departmental audit or investigation to commence for us to examine where are the pitfalls. I would think a taxpayer will appreciate proactive services than reactive services. If department is going to do audit, how much fees can someone who is going to coordinate the audit expect? But if someone is able to bring forward some issues for management's concern, management may make a decision to set right their missteps, misunderstandings, or they may be adamant and continue what they're doing, hoping nobody is going to notice it. But it does not require a very insightful officer in Calcutta to do this investigation, because this is the same law anywhere. So someone can do an investigation in Bangalore, and that can become template for someone to follow in Calcutta. Why not? An investigation may be done in Calcutta, which can become a template to be used in Faridabad, and something in Goa can be used in Rajkot, something in Ernakulam can be used in Chennai. That is the beauty of GST law. In the past, accessing information was the big burden. I mean, if you really remember your articleship days and when departmental audits were taken up under the earlier regime, imagine how many months it would take to provide records. To complete the audit, there was limited time, but to even produce the records, it would take months. And somehow those records, before being submitted to the tax officer, would get sanitized in the office before being carried. Even then, there would be a few that will slip through the cracks and reach their hands and then result in reassessment. In GST, government has far more data than what we think they do. And there's enough help available for the government to analyze this data, to make sense of it and build models, to raise suspicion. Merely because something is suspicious does not necessarily authorize making an adverse inference. You look like you're not paying tax properly. That is not good enough. This is not matching with that, therefore you have not discharged tax. Let me ask you to do a short exercise in your own minds. Please think of all the clients in your office. Make a list of all those clients in your mind. And as I keep suggesting, you please make shorter lists based on the suggestions I'm making. Clients whose compliances are up to date. You're responsible for it, so obviously compliances are up to date. But clients whose tax positions you have no doubt about. You're fully confident that the tax position they have taken has no two views about it. Color them green. Color them green. Next, think of clients whose tax positions may be in doubt. It could be goods, it could be services, it could be sweet, it could be a box of sweets. Color them yellow. Then the next set of clients. Clients who are inherently lethargic. Inherently lethargic. this diabetes patient who enjoys sweets. He's very regular for checkup, all right, but he's also regular at the sweet stall, all right. Those whose positions are itself in question, color them orange. Then the last, those who just don't listen to you, all right, color them red. Now ask yourself, do you have the maximum number of clients in the green color code or the rest of the spectrum? My question is, if anyone is in the green, then I think you should let go of that client, because he's not going to be of any use to you anymore. If you want to retain that client, possibly you will need to hand it to your trainees so that that becomes training assignments. And if you look at the rest of the clients, my question is, why are we waiting for the client's file to be selected for departmental audit? Why are we waiting? What are we waiting for? An officer to come in and say, this client is selected for departmental audit? I think we should identify the areas where there are missteps and present to the management a report and put them at notice saying that, look, you're making a big mistake in these areas for these reasons. They're welcome not to listen to you. And I enjoy working with clients who come regularly, take all the consultancy they require, but don't follow any of that. These are patients who will show up in the ambulance. These are not patients who will show up in the OPD. So therefore, friends, please bear in mind my question to you. It's a request as well as a challenge. What are you waiting for? You're waiting for, government announced 50,000 assessees are going to be selected for GST audit, and that made news. You know what percentage 50,000 is to, Tarunji read out some statistic about how many assessees are registered? I forgot, 14 crore. 1.4? What is that as a percentage? I'm telling you that there are far fewer officers than there are assessees to do audit. And in between there are actors who delay the whole process. I don't know who those are, but there are some who delay the whole process, hoping that if they don't get to see a lot, there will be far fewer questions to be raised. But GST is not something like that, because I believe GST templates are being developed. I know for sure in Karnataka, because chartered accountants work very closely with the government there to develop errors master. Sectoral errors master. These are the sectors where these kinds of errors will be there. Just to share with you one illustration of how this can become very effective is, let's take one sector, look at what are the potential areas of revenue leakage due to misunderstanding, lesser percentage, but major percentages because of divergence of interpretation. Divergence of interpretation. What are the errors? What are the provisions under which this issue needs to be raised? I'll give a small example. Real estate sector, joint development carried out between July 17 to March 19. Let's see how the investigation should be done. Very quickly, I will tell you in the limited time. There is reasons to believe, from the RERA website you can find out who are the landowners and who has entered into joint development with the builder. Landowner not registered, because based on PAN number you can search if they are registered in GST. Developer is registered. So there is reason to believe that the developer has evaded tax under 9(4) for 4.5 months for the starting of GST. Based on this, INS-1 is issued, and under 67, enforcement officers will inspect the developer, collect information about inward supplies without payment of GST from unregistered persons. Builder will happily give the data. Information about the landowners is known more clearly from the builder's information. Notice is issued under section 63 to all the landowners. Notice is issued under section 63 to all the landowners, and under 83, garnishee order is issued to the builder to hold on to any property belonging to the landowner held with the builder. Now, how will you find the landowner? How will you ensure service of the notice? Officers think by sending email or sending it on the portal, they have done their job. Validity of service is a question of law. 169 gives 14 ways to serve a notice. You cannot pick the least expeditious way of serving a notice and be satisfied, because a learned judge is going to sit and examine whether service of notice by the least expeditious way meets the ends of fairness. Remember that the developer is also a power of attorney holder for the landowner, so therefore serve this notice on the developer and get acknowledgement, because that is also permitted under section 169. Your money is secure. Best judgment. When you do a best judgment under 63, burden of proof remains substantially on the assessee. A presumption that there may be liability is sufficient. Revenue is secure because garnishee orders have been issued to the builder. Now all those who will evade appearing before the officer will come in. This has to be a very planned approach, because the proper officer having territorial jurisdiction under 63 should issue ASMT 14, and the investigating officer with jurisdiction under 67 should issue proceedings against the builder. So therefore, please bear in mind, GST is not written by someone who is detached from ground realities. I would think that someone who has had enormous field experience has sat down and written every provision, which is why if you see the number of petitions before High Court claiming injustice, high-handedness, etc., the percentage is very small. The number of cases may be large, but the number of instances where the courts find that there is something amiss is significantly lower, because the field is well set. Somehow, wherever I place the ball, there is a fielder. It's not that it is accidental. I think the way administration is being done is deliberate. So therefore, we have to up the game. 6.5 years is way too much time for us to concern ourselves with petty issues like 2A is not matching 3B. You know what? 2A is never going to match. 2B will always match. 2B will always match with 3B, and wherever you are not taking credit, it will go and sit in 4B2. Whether you reverse it or not, once November 30 crosses, it will get auto reset and the balance will become 0. So therefore, we will need to sit down and visualize what is the color codes in the office, what are the areas where we want to address, and see where taxpayer may be going wrong. Transfer pricing adjustments made in income tax, does it require a GST treatment? How many GST experts have called for transfer pricing benchmarking study report of the client to analyze whether there are any potential GST implications? 6 years now, DRP orders, tribunal orders in transfer pricing have we examined to see whether there is any negative adjustment that is allowed in these proceedings. Has taxpayer himself admitted any negative adjustment? Credit notes, simplest, it's the low-hanging fruit. What is the meaning of a credit note? From a revenue point of view, I don't know if any officers from the department are here. From a revenue point of view, it's all right, because what happens, knowledge is not something for us as members of our institute. We are happy to share this with everyone. It's for each person to see how they will absorb and put it to good use. So therefore, from a revenue point of view, what is the meaning of a credit note? I would say credit note is nothing but suo motu sanction of refund. I have paid some tax. Now I am issuing a credit note. Ostensibly, it is permitted under section 34. I am submitting it and reducing my liability until I recover back this money. Till then, I will never pay a single rupee of tax. It is nothing but suo motu sanction of refund. Who has burden of proof? 106 of evidence law says, information that lies in the special knowledge of any person, the burden rests on such person. There was a small inquiry. Under 61, ASMT 10 was issued, questioning the correctness of credit notes issued. There's a distinct person in Bangalore, his annual revenues. The distinct person's revenues was 18,000 crores. All right? They have issued credit notes of 2,000 crores. Bigger the company, lesser is the tolerance for mistakes in invoice preparation. If such a big company cannot issue invoice properly, then I don't know what software they're developing, isn't it? So therefore, 2,000 crores of credit note, ASMT 10 was issued, that this credit note issued may not be in accordance with section 34. Kindly provide documentary evidence in support of your position that these are admissible under section 34. A reply was received stating, please give us 3 months of time, because 2,000 crores to compile all those documents will require a lot of time. Please bear in mind, granting reasonable time does not necessarily mean granting a large amount of time. Granting reasonable amount of time means granting time that is commensurate with the work to be done. If you need 3 months time, you're not providing information that is already available, you are preparing information to provide it. Because this information that the credit notes are to be issued and it is in accordance with section 34 should have already existed when the credit note had to be issued. So therefore, you should extract it and supply it. And if you're an IT company, then you should be able to do it in 5 seconds. That's what they say. What's that software? There's some software. Artificial intelligence. I don't know much about it, but they say it makes things very fast. So if the adjournment request made itself is sufficient to issue notice under 74, because this is dilatory tactics. It is deliberate. There is gains from this. And that documentation is not being disclosed. And when in exports, if they have issued credit note, it's not just a case of ITC reversal. It's a case of IGST, because every export is first an interstate supply and then zero rated. So therefore, who has the insight to be able to step back and analyze how this implication is going? Large businesses. Simply take the CBCR. What is CBCR? We all know what is CBCR. Simply, if you have access to the country by country report, you will know what is their global picture. Income attributable to PE offered to tax before regulators in a foreign jurisdiction, does it require GST treatment in India? There is a one export contract of an entity in India. This entity has admitted before a regulator in a foreign jurisdiction that out of its total revenues, some portion is income attributable to PE. All right? Is this export by the PE or export by the legal entity in India? Be very careful. Both answers can be correct. But it will have consequential implications of what happens to the expense claimed against that income attributed. That has to be import of services. All right? 16.4 does not apply to RCM payments. All right? So therefore, even today, the management should heed your advice and discharge enormous amount of RCM and take credit. All right, department may object, saying that this is hit by 16.4. That's a far simpler issue to contest and resolve, rather than leave this for department to discover. Somebody was saying that I had gone to a city that has far simpler taxpayers, simpler tax officers. The issues are all very simple. Someone said, look, in our jurisdiction, nobody understands these complex issues to raise them. But it was a listed company having a branch in a small industrial city. It does not require every officer to be a subject matter expert. Officers are good at administration of this law, and that's all they will do. And that's all they should do, and do it dispassionately. Please bear in mind, not a single taxpayer should be permitted to get away with an unjust advantage, because the entire society that diligently pays their taxes is looking to every single tax officer, whether this officer will gloss over this mischief maker because he's possibly having all the expertise that he can access, because he can possibly carry the matter all the way to Supreme Court. Will this one officer let go? Or will this one officer stand up and say, enough is enough, I'm going to now issue a notice? We need tax officers to challenge tax positions taken in self-assessment, and somebody is going to bring that challenge to our doorstep. In the name of compliance, in the name of automation, we don't have time to relax, because we now have sufficient time, because we are freed from the burden of data management. We now have time with the data to make sense of that data and tell the client that, look, that elbow that you have now developed after you fell down from the tree is not an elbow. You need surgery immediately. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jatin sir, for your wonderful deliberations. You took so many good examples as to how to respond to the notices, as to what should be the length of the reply to your notices. And GST, is it exactly, can be said to be a destination-based consumption tax, or whether at all, can it in true sense be said to be a seamless flow of credit in GST regime? So many issues are there. So now we will move to the next session, that is question and answer session. We can take few questions so that we can also have the views of Jatin sir on the questions that may be raised by the audience.
So thank you for the insightful session, really appreciate that. Sir, practically what we see in audit is that, sir, they ask for the sundry creditors ledger, and then they see the bank statements, and then they raise the proviso, rule 37, 180 days non-payment and all that. So sir, whenever we make a submission, we take some persuasive value of revenue neutrality or pre-GST case laws, etc. So that is one thing, because the law is unfair in this regard. And secondly, sir, what we see is that in many cases where there were reversal of ITC required, the taxpayers mistakenly back in 17, 18, 18, 19 made payment or discharged the reversal by making payment of output tax in 3.1, or likewise the other way where in case the concept of debit note was not clear to the accountant then. So a debit note which in principle was reversal for ITC has actually been reported as debit note for sale. So actually payment has been made by 3.1. Or likewise, sir, otherwise if advance payment was made earlier with advance, and then again on the full bill invoice value, so payment of output tax was made double. So there we have taken input tax credit to compensate that. So that again also is a revenue neutral position, whereas now we are receiving demand notices wherein they are charging reversal of either input or payment of tax along with interest payment. So sir, how to tackle these usual issues?
Information baked into it. For example, this law is unfair, Rule 37 should not have been there. All those things, we'll address them one by one. First of all, revenue is free to canvass an alternate interpretation to that taken by taxpayer. Alright? Revenue is free to do that, and they should do it. I told you, it's their duty towards society. You send them to do it, and they will issue you a notice. But before you launch into answering the question, please pause and question the question. And then let's see when we have to answer the question. When you start your answer saying it is revenue neutral, basically you are saying that you accept the allegation. But the question is, do you accept the allegation at all? Have you breached second proviso to 16.2 or not? Or are you in compliance with 37? How you are in compliance with 37, you don't have to answer. Please wait. Please wait. Let revenue make out their case. Revenue states that the date of invoice is so and so, you've taken credit, and the date of payment in the bank is so and so. Payment to a creditor through bank, is it the only way to make payment? In fact, it's an advance billing out of West Bengal that says payment can be made by account settlement.
Senco.
Account can be settled in any number of ways. Even journal entry, only you will understand. Debit credit creditor, credit loan creditor. Understood? See? So therefore, please bear in mind, allegation left undisputed becomes fact. Allegation disputed leaves the burden on revenue shoulders to bring home the allegation with evidence to say that you have not paid the credit within 6 months.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, under section 61, scrutiny of returns notice has been issued for the financial years 17-18 and 18-19. In some of the cases, registered tax person has not paid the RCM and has not taken the input tax credit, right? What he has done after 17-18 and 18-19, suppose say in 19-20, when he realized that he has not paid the RCM, he has paid the RCM and taken the input. He has generated the self-invoice as required in the CGST Act and taken the inputs. Now, what is the legal stand as of now? He has not taken input and RCM in 17-18 and 18-19. The time limit prescribed under section 16 has been expired. Department has viewed that you have to pay the RCM. And just I want to add on, department has issued one circular instructions for the extension of the clarification for the GSTR 9 and 9C. In this instruction, they have written RCM can be shown the year in which it is paid and the input tax credit can be taken, right? So I have taken the defend that the RTP should be allowed to take the input, there should not be interest and penalty. What is your view in this regard, sir?
I mentioned earlier, ICST and the customs, so therefore you're in a good position, but you have to be patient with the process. They will question, you're supposed to give a reply, and you will eventually see an interpretation emerging. I agree with your view, 16.4 won't apply to RCM payments. And as long as you have paid it through 3B, you are entitled to take credit, even if it is relating to 17-18 paid in 19-20.
But what is happening, most of the registered tax person facing these issues, they are issuing the FAR audit report, along with them they are issuing the SCN by mentioning the liability, interest, penalty, there is a huge amount. So it becomes, crores. So how as a RTP we can deal with this situation? We have to go in the appeal.
During Corona time, who are the happiest people? Doctors. Why are you unhappy? Why are you unhappy? You have an answer,
Sir,
but you have to go through the process.
Yes, but
You'll
I
get
am
paid
talking
for
about
going through the process.
Industry point of view, because industry are facing the very big problem for this
नहीं नहीं
issue.
अब भावुक हो रहे हो अब बैठ समझ में आ गया यू गेटिंग इमोशनल इट्स ऑल राइट एक्सरे देख के डॉक्टर साहब को रोना नहीं है टूटी हुई हड्डी लेकिन अंदर ही है इलाज हो जाएगा डोंट वरी यू डोंट हैव टू गेट सो एंशियस अबाउट व्हाई दिस इज हैपनिंग this should happen. I think it's a good thing that audit is raising these objections. You know how many people have discharged tax for this 26AS versus ST3 business? You know how many have paid? It is such a silly notice. 26AS is not supposed to match ST3, but you don't know how many people have paid tax. So therefore, there are पुल का काम अभी रुका हुआ है, उनके पैसे चाहिए, हैं? So don't worry, you have a position, be patient. They have to ask this question, let them ask this question, you give a response. It's only fair that someone asks the question. We cannot say government should not ask this question. Unfair, ye ho raha hai. Let's not embellish these problems with this. There is a solution. I acknowledge Mr. Sir's presence here. Please come, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So please don't be anxious, and you have the right person to lend us all the support we need if there is any misapplication of the law or of the process. Sir is there to guide us, but you don't have to be anxious. Please celebrate that work is coming your way.
Right, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
He is carrying goods through railway, and railway is charging 5%. This is not covered compartment. This brake van, the 1 ton or 2 ton like this, collecting goods from different customers, and but department is asking that you are servicing. This is a service. You have to pay 18%. So my input is 5%. So whether I am required to pay 13% extra?
This is an inward supply or an outward supply you're talking? Railways is providing service to your client.
Yes.
So this
No. Yes. Railway is supplying service to me.
your client.
Yes.
Your
And
client is providing something else to his customer.
yes.
So the question is about 18% on the inward supply or on your outward supply?
On my outward supply, I am charging 5% only.
What is your outward supply?
I am just on behalf of my client. carrying goods from suppose Delhi to Calcutta, and I am charging 5%, since railway is also charging 5%, and I am also charging 5%.
Are you a GTA?
No, I am not GTA.
When you are not a GTA, 9964, if you see the entries in serial number 8, which specific entry you will fall under, you may need to examine. Your inward may be 5. There is no requirement that your outward also must be 5 because you are not a GTA, you are saying. So
Yeah.
please consider facts. I'm here in the break. Perhaps I can get some more information and then clarify to you a little further. Yes.
One application for cancellation of registration was filed. And
Application for cancellation was filed. There are so many people applying for revocation. Good, sir.
yes, transporters, nowadays transporters are going for out of GST regime. They are asking for cancellation. Since their outward supply is under RCM 100%. So now in wake of as additional clarification and explanation, department
Safeguards in this law than ever before in indirect tax legislations that we just are unable to believe that there are so many rights, remedies and safeguards for taxpayers. Please avail those safeguards, ask this question and then you will find that cancellation is being processed.
I think we have a dedicated question and answer session which we can take in the second half of the session. So now the time has come to conclude this session. We have other speakers also waiting. So may I request Indu sir to kindly come on the dais and offer a memento to Jatin sir. Thank you, sir. May I now request CA Sashi Jhajaria to offer a formal vote of thanks.
It is said that the only prayer you ever make in your entire life is thank you, it'll be enough. It's my pleasure over here, it's an honor to present this formal vote of thanks to CA Jatin Christopher sir for deliberating on such a complex issue and breaking it down with his clarity and expertise. We have all learned a lot from this session. Now, as he very rightly said, that GST is neither VAT nor service tax. So we must all be ready to learn and learn. Until we learn, we remain young. So definitely we have a lot of takeaways from this session. Thank you so much, sir, for gracing us with your presence and helping us learn a lot from your perspective. And when I talk about perspective, then there are two very important and significant points which sir has made, which is really my takeaway. One, that credit note is a suo motu sanction of refund, which is a very different perspective of looking at what this usual document that we generate is. Second, that a reply to a show cause notice is a disclosure of our position and not an explanation that we are offering to the authorities. So thank you so much, sir, for such inspirational perspective that you have given to all of us. Finally, I would like to highlight, there are two more tasks which we are all taking back, I think, from this session. One, highlighting all our clients in those color codes to finally segregate them into the right bucket. And of course, to note and look at the transfer pricing reports of our clients and accordingly study them and have a better understanding. Thank you so much, sir. With this, we conclude technical session 1, and we would now begin technical session 2. Thank you so much.